Well, hi, I'm Jeff Strong. I'm creator of the Auditory Brain Stimulation Therapy Rhythmic Entrainment Intervention. I'm also co-founder and creative director of BrainShiftRadio.com. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about drumming and binaural beats, different types of brainwave entrainment, kind of explore a little bit how they differ and why drumming, I think, is a superior way of doing it. Brainwave entrainment is a really simple process where you get the brain to synchronize with an external auditory stimulus. And in the case of drumming, it's the rhythms for the drum. And in the case of binaural beats, it's the beat frequencies that are created with the different tones that are played in the ears through headphones. Binaural beats are essentially a frequency of beat that happens when your brain hears one frequency in one ear and a slightly different frequency in the other ear. The difference between those two frequencies creates a beat, a pulsation in the brain, and that's a binaural beat. And you can set those frequencies pretty much across the spectrum of human hearing. They need to be pulsations, so they really need to be below 30 hertz. And ideally, they're a lot lower than that. The most effective beat frequencies you're going to find are the ones on the low end of the theta state of consciousness. That is anywhere from 4 to 5, maybe beats per second. Anything faster than that, and they get a little bit tricky. And the reason for that is because entrainment, brainwave entrainment requires different types of stimulus depending on the state that you're wanting to get the brain into. So when I talk about drumming, and I'm talking about therapeutic drumming historically, what I'm talking about is tempos within the theta state of consciousness. That's where all traditional therapeutic drumming exists. You may have some ceremonies that go above that get into the alpha state of consciousness for a little while, but they don't spend a lot of time there. That's transition times. Most drumming is within 4 to 8 beats per second. Now, 4 to 8 beats per second, the low end, that's the technique that shamanic practitioners use, that meditators use to get into this really deep meditative state. It's about 4 beats per second. That's about this tempo here. So if you're going to entrain the brain to a 4 beat per second pulse, you can use a drumming rhythm that just goes like this, it's very steady, very straight, or you can create a binaural beat. An easy way to do that is if you have audio recording software, really simple. Go to a sine wave plugin in your software in one track and set it to 400 hertz, and then turn the pan, the direction of the sound, all the way to one ear. Say, let's go to the left ear. And then create another track with a sine wave plugin set to 404 hertz. And put it all the way to the right. Now you've got a binaural beat because you've got 400 hertz in the left ear and 404 hertz in the right. And what the brain's going to end up hearing is these two tones, but it's going to end up perceiving that 4 hertz difference between the two as a pulsation. Your brain's actually going to hear on some level this. But it's going to be a subtle pulsation. Because it's the way these waveforms interact with one another. You have to use headphones for this to happen. Cool thing about drumming is you don't need headphones. You don't have to be between the speakers. You don't have to have one ear hearing one thing and another ear hearing another thing. Both your ears are hearing the drumming beat. So that's 4 beats per second. Repetitive pulse works great. You go a little bit faster. Now you need to start making some changes because the brain will become used to the stimulus and it eventually will try to push it out. The reason the repetitive stimulus can work so well at 4 beats per second is because we're inwardly directed. We're not focusing on our outer awareness. And so the sound that gets through, we're not really paying attention to. It's just kind of there. We're perceiving it because that's what our nervous systems do. They pick up all kinds of stimulus and filter out that which is not important. And that which is, we focus on. When we're in this inwardly directed state, we're aware of it, it's happening, it can influence us, but we're not conscious of it. And because we're not conscious of it, we're not becoming so used to it. If it's repetitive, we can handle that repetition. You start getting higher levels of consciousness, 5, 6, 7, 8 beats per second. Progressively now you're becoming more and more aware of your external world. You're more and more aware of all your external senses. And if you have a repetitive rhythm, repetitive stimulus, say at the high end of theta, 8 beats per second, now your brain can become used to it very, very easily, very quickly, and it's not going to respond because it's not interesting and it's not a threat. And so it's easy to shut it out. If you can't shut it out, you get annoyed. And this is something I show all the time in my presentations. I speak at a lot of conferences. I've spoken at over 200 professional conferences. And always I play this rhythm. I'll take the 4 beat per second like I did, and I'll play it and let you get a sense for what it feels like. It can be fairly comfortable. And I'll do that for 30 seconds or so. Just settle in, close your eyes, let this 4 beat per second kind of settle into your mind and see where you go. See if you visualize anything, get any internal experiences, and also see if you find it annoying. It's 4 beat per second right here. Traditional shamanic practices would use this rhythm, and this rhythm could play for 20, 30, 40 minutes or more. Now generally it's played on a frame drum with a mallet, and the person playing it may not be a very good drummer. The skin, because they're playing it, will resonate and it'll vibrate at whatever frequency the drum is at, which may sometimes kind of push back against the beater as you're playing. And what will end up happening is you get a variety of sounds. It's not quite as regular as I play. And so that variability can be really important. Binaural beats don't offer that variability. So you may find binaural beats at 4 beats per second is just too repetitive for you, even though you can handle the drumming, because the drumming has some variance in its sound and its rhythm, because a person's playing it. You get up to 8 beats per second, this becomes more pronounced. If I play 8 beats per second, say for our custom program, for anything on BrainShift Radio, I'm putting it in a rhythm and I'm making that rhythm change. If I'm doing a binaural beat, I can't change that rhythm. 8 beats per second is 8 beats per second. Yes, you can change the different waves around it. So you can go from 400 hertz and 408 hertz, for instance. That difference is 8 hertz then. So 400 hertz in the left ear, 408 in the right ear. The pulsation is 8 beats per second. You can maybe change it to 408 and 416, or 800 and 808. You've still got that 4 beat per second pulsation that doesn't change. Your brain becomes used to it and it says, you know what, I don't want to respond to it anymore. And it feels and sounds a lot like this. I'm going to play 8 beats per second. No accents, no rhythm to it. It's just straight ahead, double the tempo of the shamanic with no variability at all. Sounds like this. And that can get pretty annoying. Whenever I play it in a live setting, at a conference or something, people start squirming in their seats within 15, 20 seconds. If I play for 2 or 3 minutes this way, it can be really annoying. People get agitated. Because it's repetitive, it's not changing. Our brain deciphers the pattern pretty quickly and then can't push it aside, especially in a live situation. This is what happens with binaural beats. When you have, you can have, binaural beats generally are delivered with some sort of nature sound or something. So that creates a little bit of variability. You might have some rain, or you might have an ocean wave or something, and there'll be enough change in that that'll keep you going for a while. But that underlying binaural beat, if it's 8 beats per second, it's 8 beats per second. I don't care what the frequencies around it are. It could be 400 and 408, it could be 800 and 808. It doesn't matter. That 8 beats per second is still, and it doesn't change. Your brain is going to get used to it, it's going to decipher the pattern, and it's going to develop a tolerance to it. In other words, that won't work for very long. And so that's the limitation of binaural beats. The faster you go with the binaural beat, the quicker this happens. It can happen at 4 beats per second for some people. I think it happens more often today than it did in the past. That's why when I talk about bringing in somebody to a deep meditative state, I'm really using a variable rhythm. I'm not using the traditional shamanic 4 beat per second pulse. I want to change it. I want to make it unpredictable so that the brain does stay engaged. I think it's important. We're used to so much stimulus, we get habituated pretty quickly. So at 8 beats per second, if I'm using drumming, I can vary it by using a rhythm and improvising around it. And that's the beauty of drumming. It's infinitely variable when a person is playing. And if a person plays a steady tempo, the brain will actually entrain. And if the drummer's playing a steady underlying pattern with accents and orchestrations for a rhythm on top, now you have something that's engaging that can entrain for the long term. So I'm going to play for you a little bit of 8 beats per second using a variable rhythm. And you'll see me have a theme and kind of grow from it. As a matter of fact, I'm going to use a rhythm I'm going to use a rhythm I recently used in another video. It's going to be a triplet-based rhythm. So it'll have a certain feel to it. You'll recognize it. I'll come back to it a bit. But it'll be at 8 beats per second. Your brain will entrain to that eventually. And it'll be interesting, so it won't become annoying after a while. So I'm going to play for a few minutes. 8 beats per second. Just settle in, let yourself see how this feels. Compare that to how it feels with me just playing straight ahead with a non-accent and 16th note pattern. And this will illustrate why drumming is, in my opinion, a much better way of entraining the brain than a binaural beat, especially when you get up to these higher tempos. It's all about variability, musicality, and the ability of the brain to stay engaged through unpredictability. So I'll play for a little while, hope you enjoy, and I'll see you in the next video.